Jake Holloway had always trusted the wild. It was predictable in its own way. Wolves hunted, rivers froze, trees swayed under the wind's quiet breath. But as he turned off his truck's engine and let the silence settle over him, something felt wrong. Not just the quiet, the weight of it. The cold gnawed through his jacket as he reached for his camera, resting it against the window. His breath fogged the glass, momentarily distorting the view of the pine forest stretching endlessly before him. No movement, no wind. Even the birds had gone silent. He checked the clock. 9:42 p.m. The lynx he'd been tracking was somewhere beyond the trees. He had spent 3 days following its trail, moving deeper into this untouched stretch of wilderness where few dared to go. Jake was no amateur. Years of photographing apex predators had hardened his instincts, but tonight, those instincts screamed at him in a way they never had before. He raised his night vision scope and scanned the tree line. That's when he saw them. Eyes, pale yellow reflections staring from the dark. A chill crept down his spine. At first it was one pair, then another, then more. They emerged slowly, shadows unfurling from between the trees. Wolves. Jake's heart drummed against his ribs as he counted. 6, no, 8 of them. The lead wolf stood larger than the others, its fur dark as ink, shoulders rippling with quiet strength. The others formed a near-perfect semicircle around it, their bodies still as statues, watching him. Jake had encountered wolves before. They were cautious by nature, avoiding humans unless desperate. But these weren't behaving like normal wolves. They didn't move, didn't snarl, didn't scatter. They were waiting. Something twisted in his gut. Slowly, he reached for the truck's keys and turned the ignition. Click. His stomach dropped. He tried again. Click, click, click. The engine was dead. The temperature gauge plummeted. His breath thickened in the freezing air. He turned toward the windshield, wiping a layer of frost that had formed far too quickly. The wolves had stepped closer. Their movements were synchronized, too synchronized. Jake's pulse thundered in his ears. Wolves didn't move in perfect formation. They didn't take measured steps like trained soldiers. His fingers fumbled for the horn. He slammed his palm against it. The loud blast echoed through the clearing. The wolves didn't flinch. Jake swallowed hard, his breath coming fast and shallow. He grabbed his flare gun from the glove compartment, loading it with shaking hands. He fired. A bright red streak shot into the sky, illuminating the clearing in an eerie crimson glow. The wolves did not scatter. They watched, unmoving, unblinking. Jake felt something cold slither down his spine. Then as one, they took another step forward. Jake clutched the flare gun tighter. Through his camera's telephoto lens, he could see the details now. The scars on the lead wolf's muzzle, the ice glistening on their thick fur, the way their breath curled into the freezing air in perfect unison. Then he noticed something else. They weren't looking at him, not exactly. Their ears flicked in unison toward the eastern tree line. Their heads would shift slightly, eyes scanning something in the darkness beyond. Jake turned slowly, following their gaze. At first he saw nothing. Then movement. A thin mist creeping through the trees, too slow, too deliberate. Jake's pulse hammered. Mist shouldn't move like that. It wasn't rising from the ground. It was descending. Thick tendrils slithered between the pines, curling like grasping fingers. It carried no wind, no scent, just an unnatural, suffocating presence. The wolves shifted, tighter, closer together, not aggressive, not threatening, defensive. Jake's hands shook as he reloaded the flare gun. What the hell was happening? His body screamed for him to get out, to run, but his truck was useless. His satellite phone was buried in his pack. And the wolves, they wouldn't let him leave anyway. The mist thickened, pooling low around the ground. And that's when he saw them, shadows inside the fog, tall, unmoving, watching. Jake's throat tightened. He tried to focus through the lens, adjusting for the dim light. The mist swirled. The figures remained. Not men, not animals. Something else. His instincts screamed at him. Don't move! Don't breathe! The lead wolf raised its head. A sound rumbled from its chest. Low, resonant, unnatural. The pack responded in kind. A series of deep vibrations layered over one another, almost like a code. Jake's stomach clenched. They were warning him. A sound drifted through the air. Not wind, not animals. Whispers. Faint. Indistinct. The words just beyond comprehension. Jake gritted his teeth, fear clawing up his spine. The wolves moved again. This time they tightened their formation. Not around him, but against something unseen. The mist inched closer, curling around the truck's tires. The figures within it loomed taller, shifting ever so slightly, as if acknowledging him now. Jake did the only thing he could. He fired another flare. The red burst lit the clearing, the shadows lurching unnaturally. The wolves reacted instantly. They lunged, not at him, but at the mist. Teeth bared, claws digging into the frozen earth. Their snarls turned to roars that echoed into the night. Jake felt his body tremble. The figures within the fog moved back, just slightly, just enough. And in that moment, Jake understood. The wolves weren't here for him. They were protecting him from whatever was inside that mist, something that was not supposed to be seen. His fingers tightened around the keys one last time. He turned the ignition. The engine roared to life. The wolves snapped their heads toward him. The mist hesitated. Jake didn't wait. He slammed the gear into reverse, tires spinning against the frozen dirt. The last thing he saw was the lead wolf, standing in the road watching him go, and beyond it, the mist reaching for the trees once more, as if it had only just begun to wake up.